Welcome on the Leaders Who Care. I'm really privileged today to welcome someone that really has made a profound impact on a number of areas, but really caring for the planet and making an impact on people's thriving at work, and really is moved from a corporate life to a portfolio career, and really very interesting insights and stories to share. But as you know, we're on a mission on the Leaders Who Care to speak to some of the most impactful leaders of the world that really make a profound impact. And we do that consistently, and would like to give you the stories and share the stories of those leaders who are not just successful, but really care about others. Today, I'm really privileged to welcome Luca Zerbani. Luca, thank you for joining us today, and welcome on the Leaders Who Care.
Yeah, Marion, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, Luca, I've really been impressed with what you have achieved, and really you're being very successful in pretty much everything you have done in the past. Of course, there's lots of learnings and failures along the way, but you've made it big in corporates, and you've been working with large corporations like Honeywell, but you have decided to exit that world and really be even more impactful. And now you're a founding partner and CEO of a VC fund called Terra, which means one land, I
One
understand.
Earth, yes. One Earth,
One
one,
Earth.
yeah,
One
one
Earth.
planet.
Well, look, I would love to hear more about your decision to move from a very successful career to actually more entrepreneurial, more portfolio life. What what has triggered that decision, first of all, and yeah, just a little bit of background for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, well, first of all, I think every decision has really been an evolution throughout my life. I started, as an engineer. I loved, innovation, technology. So started working, Hewlett Packard, then decided to do more, also from a business perspective. So went to work for Bain, went to get an MBA at Wharton, and then as I was growing in my career, continuing to work in, CEO of private equity back companies, and in other large corporations like Honeywell, Amcor, I tried to move more and more my career into having impact from a sustainability perspective, both environmentally and socially. And the more I was working in different corporations and even in board position, the more I realized that I was going like maxing out of my time. I was not able to have as much impact as I wanted. And I realized that the only way to do more for the future generations, and also for, the current companies I would working with, I could only do it if I was setting up a fund and my own organization. So that's how I made the decision to move from this corporate career to setting up a fund. And I didn't find any fund that would be, exactly what I wanted to achieve. So created my own one. It was a lot of work and a lot of courage, if you want, to move from something very established and very, very well developing into something completely new, and at the same time is very, very rewarding. And yeah, now is really a portfolio career, as you were saying.
Well, you've been really, it's very interesting. In fact, very successful to start a fund that is looking right now of 200 million plus funding raising for the focus on climate change, mitigation, and biodiversity restoration in Europe. And also, your operating advisor for ESG for a number of leading organizations like Advent International, for example, which is a private equity fund for over 100 billion dollars assets under management. That is not an easy thing to do. How you were able to make that transition and take that risk, and yet be recognized for at this level? First of all, raising funds, it's never
Not easy.
easy, and secondly, be recognized by leading really private equities to be advising them is a recognition of your value as well. what would be your advice to people, who are in a position where they want to make a bigger impact but don't know how to do it?
I think the first piece is really having something very clear in terms of what your interests are and what your passion is, right? So I really, my purpose is really to do more from an environmental perspective. I go back from my time when I was a child, very small place in Italy, but very much in touch with nature, and I guess that started my interest, my purpose, and then very much later on in life, I found that still motivated me. So I, decided that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So the family also gave a huge support, right? Thinking of, our kids and what type of planet we want to leave to them was a big motivator. So you have to have that motivation, that passion very strong, right? Because that's going to help in any moment you're going to have, issues and failures, to find that inner strength. And then I would say specific support. I had a coach at the time that helped me thinking through, like, what is really gonna happen. You're gonna try something new. You're gonna learn a lot, and even if it's not successful, it's gonna be an impressive, step on your resume. And it's not that you're with your type of background, you're not gonna find another solution if you need to. So really finding a way to motivate myself, and then also talking to my network, finding a lot of good insights on how to set up that fund, and also find a good balance between life, my family, and my focus. And as you know, in a fund, not only you have to find a way to raise fund, but the returns are usually in the future. So how do I balance that with some return in the present? And that's how I decided to also complement that career choice with advisory and support for large funds that could support me in the short term, while I start investing that money and see the returns in the future.
You have been previously through a difficult situations in your career, and as a CEO leader, you had to let go a lot of people. Tell us how this was changing your point of view in your career and aspiration, and how crisis can be a turning point for leaders.
Yeah, look, it was very difficult for me, and since I care a lot about people in that situation, I stepped into a company that was really going bankrupt very quickly, and losing money, losing cash, and with a private equity fund behind, we didn't have the time and the opportunity to do a lot more without having also a reduction of costs. So, but because of the way I am, I wanted to be in every single conversation, and there were a lot of them. So what we tried to do it is, first of all, do it in a way that was caring, really thinking of people, finding solutions for each of them. I still remember one lady that had her husband at the hospital and was supporting him. So we made sure that she was covered, whatever type of insurance. We didn't care, but so really like one by one type of solution. And also that made me understand that as much as we were able then to turn around the company, invest massively to make it grow and be very successful, to the point that the company that then acquired them still consider that the best business they own. It was very very difficult personally for me, and I knew that from that time on I only wanted to work in situation where there was a really significant growth, because I really suffered from the need to do something like that. I could justify it logically, but my heart was always bleeding anyway. So I think two learning out of that was, yeah, you need to do what you need to do, but you need to do it in a way that is still respectful, and people were also very understanding on the other time, because they knew we were doing it for, say, the greater purpose of the company, and for the other people that could stay and thrive. And at the same time also knowing where you can be more effective, and I'm effective in places where there is high growth, high opportunity. So that from that moment on, I never work in situation where there was that type of environment, I always work in high growth and high, opportunity kind of companies.
No, thank you for sharing that because we're facing a time of uncertainty and often restructuring is needed, but it's really important how it's done, and it is not easy. Also, I know you're deeply passionate about innovations and really, especially in the current state we are in, it's highly needed. Tell us more about the disruption of the status quo and with a transition from the classic model of profitable business, or operating operations to moving into more truly caring and innovative and sustainable operating model. Is that possible? And what are your take on this?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think it's very important that we go through this transition in a way that is also very socially relevant and bringing anyone on board. I think businesses over time have forgotten that they were not made only to make money, but that's just an outcome, right? The purpose of a business is usually something else, right? Provide some solution, services, products to people, and I think that's where, at some point we put only the shareholder, whoever gets the money at the top, and forgot about employees, about customers, about suppliers, and of course I'm being generally here, but in many cases, the creation of Wall Street and return on a quarter by quarter focus so much on the short term that we forgot about how to innovate, because you need to look a little bit at the longer term, and also how to care about the full ecosystem, both inside and outside the company. And that's how I think a lot of people now think about sustainability and impact is not just about the environmental part, which is of course key because it's a critical risk for humanity, but it's also about the social way to do that. So it has to be engaging for people that are involved in it because they're going to put their passion on it. And I see that over and over in all the companies we work with, people that start from a very low engagement, getting excited about a real purpose for a company, and then putting all their passion into it, to customers seeing that transition happening, right? So net promoter score going through the roof, suppliers being a lot more excited about providing solution, etc. And the environment, of course, like even socially, like in every location where the business is present, really being able to engage the various communities, I think is key. That we involve not only from a gender perspective, women, from diversity perspective in general, real equity, real inclusion, ensuring that is for the benefit of all, so not some very wealthy people, 1% of the world, and everybody else following and having a hard time. Also, that balance on poverty and on equality. So I think, like, we have seen that overall transition is at the same time very complex, but is also exciting because it's the first time that we have a holistic view of what we can do. And I think sustainability from an environmental perspective is also the opportunity to say, look, we can review every single thing that we do, right? From the energy, from the way we go around, mobility, from the way we build, from the way we eat, etc. Into, we're also going to improve the social aspect of our future across all the dimensions I mentioned before. So I think there is a real opportunity to huge transition, huge change in a short amount of time.
I see a lot of really positive shift in business and also leadership, that they really want to make the difference. And for me, business is always a great catalyst, especially deployment of capital. Um, and I think one of the what one of the visions, what I understand from One Earth of Una Terra is exactly that. What is the goal of the VC fund that you've created? What would you like to achieve?
Well, that's really, thank you for the question, because of course it's my passion. So the fund was really set up to accelerate the transition from a non-sustainable current state to a sustainable one across a number of different industries, and do that at scale, right? So really scale up companies. So we know that we don't have much time, and not everybody is talking about 2030, so it means really a few years. But because of that, we need to put all our efforts together, and that means not only finding the right businesses that need the scale up, but also help them scaling up, which means we can provide commercial introduction, new market entry, we can put them in touch with a number of partners. We have tried to create beyond the fund, which is important, of course, because you can put a lot of capital at work. We have only investors in our fund that can add additional capital. So the 200 million may seem a small amount of money compared to what is needed to change. But when you think that each of our investor can put billions at work together with us, that's also incredible. And we try to have different type of investor for different type of risk return, all the way from philanthropy, all the way up to, very, high risk type of solution. And I think we have the operational capability to scale up companies. We can provide interim, growth expert. We can provide yes capital. We can provide also communication capabilities, education. We're working with a number of universities that can provide programs that are specific to startups, so that they can actually don't have to leave their work for 2 years and come back. Right? They can do it while they're working. So all of that together, including even public policy. Right? We are working with some real strong think tanks and NGOs that can really change a scale the environment in which we work. So really advising on regulation and on policy, so that we can really use any lever that a company can think of to make that acceleration. And if you want, I can give you plenty of example of companies that have already gone through that type of change and are seeing the initial success that we're all hoping for.
I know there's a lot of change happening in Europe with the ESG regulations and reporting in the coming years. It seems like you are really well positioned for that transition to help a lot of those businesses. But I also realize that a lot of companies are underprepared. And
Yes.
is there how are you maybe helping in that field? What is your advice to organizations that are really committed, promised, but they're lagging behind?
Well, first of all, I think it's great to be in Europe in this moment, because Europe is really at the forefront of defining even sustainability and impact as the big differentiator for Europe. Right? If there is one place where we can lead now in Europe globally, is this aspect, and the Green Deal and all the other regulations that Europe has developed, from the packaging and packaging waste regulation to the CO2 emissions regulation, are all intended to put Europe at a leadership, but also to reunite Europe. Right? I've been seeing some of the issues with Brexit or other
Yeah.
countries. They want to make sure that we're united by one purpose, and that purpose being sustainability. There is a lot of regulation, and I think is really hard to focus on everything. So look, at different level we help in different ways, right? So with large private equity fund companies, we do it more from an advisory perspective. So typically hiring a boutique consultancy, really expert on transitioning companies from strategy to sustainability and then to execution. And that we can do, like, say, 3-4 months work that can really help those companies having a clear set of objectives that are priorities for that specific company in that industry to work on sustainability. We can do it for small companies as well, to make it really simple to understand what are the key impacts for them for related to sustainability. That's how we set up also different programs. So one we have that we're going to announce soon with the University of St. Gallen here in Switzerland is really like only 4 months, 1 week, in person. The rest is virtual, and is really done only to give the basics of what needs to be done to have an impact and a sustainability ESG agenda for that type of company that is smaller, doesn't need to have the understanding of everything from the taxonomy to the CSRD, but maybe needs to start doing something in the right direction. So I think there are different ways. Reach out, of course, to to consultants, to funds that are able to support. I think it's not complicated once you get into it, but it is from the outside very, very complex to look at. Yes.
Well, I know that this is really important for organizations now, and there's really these regulations. I'm really pleased in a way that Europe is leading the way.
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of other parts of the world that are leading many other areas, but I think at least the sustainability part, this is very serious. So this concerns every company that trades in Europe,
Yes.
and I understand that if it's a company over 15 million and 300
Yep.
people, they must report
Correct.
to the really.
Yeah, and so this is the CSRD regulation that is really like this year is the year of preparation. Next year is going to be mandatory for everyone to have a clear plan. They talk about double materiality, which really means that you need to report both from a financial perspective and from a sustainability perspective. And look, I think it's important to align what you need to do with the size of the company. We are trying to always make sure that this is not just compliance. Very often, it becomes a tick the box exercise, while instead it should be intended as how do we create value through sustainability. So that's how we try to translate the sometimes a bit complex expectation from a regulatory perspective of the European Union into something that could be really valuable for people. Because if it's just like ticking the box, then you're not going to be seeing much result. On the other hand, I think is also a way to differentiate. So again, compare that to people who are not going to do that very quickly. We're going to see more consolidation and more differentiation between the people who are really taking that seriously and the one that are going to be doing a little bit less.
There will be a lot of really advisories out there that are helping, and
Yeah.
sometimes consultancies. The question is, sometimes companies want just to tick in a box and just outsource everything. What is
Yeah.
your take on outsource versus in-house to develop those capabilities of ESG?
I think is look is good to first reach out, maybe not even to consultancies, but there are tons of association, industrial association, etc., that can give you the initial information. I think at the beginning, maybe to learn as everything else, right? You need to go out and find the right people to learn from. Can be, can be a university, can be a consultancy, but the overall idea is that you need to be able to bring this in because it's such
Yes.
an important topic. It's such a core capability for a company that is you cannot give that to someone else. Very often we see companies that when we start the work, for instance, with Advent in private equity, may not even have an ESG or a sustainability head, but very quickly we need to put someone at the top of the organization, likely reporting directly to the CEO. The board needs to have a sustainability committee, and then the entire governance is really engaging the entire organization. So you have sponsor in each function, you have people engaged at all levels, and there is a real communication internally and externally to show the progress. I think only by doing this type of activity, you're going to find that people are going to get passionate and engaged. They're going to believe that the company is doing something really different, and then you're going to see the result not only from an environmental perspective but also from a social perspective.
You mentioned there's ton of organizations you can find this. What are some initial recommendations for companies that or maybe a little bit behind or really want to quickly get a jump start on this journey, where they could seek help initially, but clearly it's so core that you need to have it adopted inside. It needs to be a way of doing business, right? Way of living almost. It's in order to be really impactful. But if they're at
Yeah,
the beginning of this journey, what would be useful? Maybe two or three recommendations.
Yeah, look, very pragmatic ones. As I said before, first of all, go to your association in terms of industrial association of your sector. They should have the initial view of the basics that you can learn, with very simple courses, or university as well. In Europe, probably Cambridge, St. Gallen, Stockholm are some of the leaders in this space. And then really some consultancies. You can go from, I would maybe steer away from the very large ones, very expensive, the McKinsey Bain or the Deloitte, etc. More there are boutique consultancies that are specialized in this. Some technical ones like the South Pole, the Quantis, the systemic. Some others that are more specialized on the transition from strategy to sustainability, like as Biblasco or EA, and so that and Xinteo as well is a good one. So all of these are able to provide you a good value for money to take you through the transition, and also to help you with structuring in the right way. And then of course definitely go to Marion to find the right person for leading the sustainability agenda
I
or
agree.
ESG agenda. No, I think it's very important to find that because there is so much demand in this moment that it's very hard that for someone who is not an expert in this field to to not pick the right person that can really drive the agenda. It's important to find someone that knows enough about sustainability to understand the topic and be impactful, but also is a good people manager, is able to manage by influence. Very often they don't have big teams, but more work with the existing team. I always say it's a little bit similar to safety, right? It's something that everyone wants to do, but no one wants to lead. And as a result, you need someone that is really leading and by influence with others and ensuring that everyone is embedding in his own agenda sustainability as well.
Well, thank you for your insights. It's really practical and valuable. I always want to look back and thank you for mentioning leadership. That's something which I've seen the impact of exceptionally gifted leaders who care about the environment, who care about their people, and really the vision and the purpose of a business. However, not every leader is there yet, and I'm really hopeful and inspired by the fact that leaders who care can really inspire more leaders to begin their journey on a conscious, caring leadership. And what would be your advice to those leaders who perhaps are not satisfied with where they are? They want to really grow and develop and really lead with care. Is there any recommendations from your own journey, starting with some practical advice to maybe some books that they could really look at or read?
Yeah, look, I'm a huge reader, so for sure I will have a lot of recommendation. I also think that I always try to do every year a new course of some sort, sometimes very long, sometimes shorter, but something that can enrich my ability to be a leader, and also shape the way I can engage others, right? So I always thought that people are at the center of everything we can do, and it's important to also make them thrive so that they can become the leader of the future. So I never, if someone reaches out to me, I'm always finding a way to be available. In terms of the books, I would say for what we just discussed, the portfolio life, I'm going to put it here, is a good one, because it's really thinking about is actually from Harvard professor Christina Wallace. Is a good way to think about which, first of all, which interest you have internally. I think it's always good to start from self-reflection, but then also which areas you want to put together that are a good balance altogether, and including your life. Very often we talk about portfolio career, but it should really be a portfolio life, with including your private life, your family, your sports, whatever you want to do. Another one that I definitely recommend on the sustainability side is Impact. Impact is from Sir Ronald Cohen, who was one of the founder of Apex, so very known already, but now is really leading and reshaping capitalism as a way to drive real change. I'm gonna have two more, but very quickly.
Please don't.
One is Earth for All,
Oh
which is
yes,
done by the Club of Rome. I actually work with Sandrine and Johan Rockstrom, but it's called a survival guide for humanity. Is really how do we change not only the environmental agenda but also the social one across equity, inclusion, gender. Very key. And then the last one I have to say, our own book. We just published a book called Standing Up for the Planet, which is the 45 stories of extraordinary women who are changing the world. This has actually been done because we thought it was really important to uh, give examples, inspire others, right? So I
definitely.
always
That's
get
the purpose.
asked, how am I going to do it? How am I going to get into this and that? And I think the best way to learn about different opportunities and different options is looking at other examples. And instead of giving only my own example, I said, why don't we create a number of examples? Now we have 45. We're going around the world doing some presentations so that people can really interact with these leaders and not just read this. We're going to also try to do a number of videos, but for the time being, at least is a way to start thinking. Okay, I want to do something on sustainability or on social responsibility. Well, maybe this is a good example for me, and I'm going to start working on it. So these are some that I would totally recommend, and I think is really understand your interest, understand what you're good at, and then focus on where is your purpose and go after it.
Thank you. In fact, I love also the examples that you give us, especially the book you wrote with the 45 stories, because people relate to real stories. And I think that's really, really good to look at who's done what. And I think before you are looking to do anything with your personal growth in life, it's good to see what the best in the world look like in that field. What are the best practices? It's like almost go around the world and explore for a year.
Yep.
That's the advice that even people like Richard Branson and many others I would personally also give, especially if you're 18 years old, go and explore. But
Right.
not only when you reach a moment of your life and saying, "Hey, what's next for me?" That's a great time to open your really mind and explore the world. Look, you're doing so much, and I know you've been going through many adversities and difficulties. How do you overcome adversity? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think, yeah, as you know, unfortunately, I lost pretty much my entire family last year, and still I'm here, fighting for what I think is important. I think the first thing is really to know yourself as well in that sense, like know by going through this adversity that yes, you're gonna get stronger, and you also need to find the time to limit the amount of work that you're doing if you need to rest and recover. I have a strong faith that helps me all the time. I have a support of the family that of course is very helpful, and I think each of us needs to know where are their kind of pillars they can count on to be supported. Those are the two that I would say are key for me. And then, of course, friends will come next. There are few that I know I can count on in very difficult situation, and they help me a lot as well. And I think also being passionate about what you're doing is going to be incredibly valuable because you can refocus on that. If you were just doing a job for the sake of doing it, is probably not going to be a very big support. So I think over time, I've learned, by having really difficult situation like this, makes me stronger, where I can find my sources of energy, when I know that I'm at the limit and maybe I should take some time off. I'm not at all, how can I say, one of these. I work very hard, but I also know that it's important to find those paces. And I'm not ashamed of taking, time off when I need to. I actually encourage my entire team to do the same. And if they need to work somewhere else, right, work in a different location, something that helps you finding your own strength.
No, thank you. Really, that's been very inspirational to really know you over the time, especially last year when you're going through these difficult moments in time. And I thank you for really making a difference despite all the challenges that you faced. And coming down to how can we do more of that? How can we spread the care culture, hopes for future generations? What would be your wish for the brighter future? What just trying to imagine if, regardless of resources, regardless, imagine there was no any limitations, what would be your hope for the next generation?
I'm really like two things maybe. One is, of course, I don't think I have all the solutions, but the ones that I can think of are the following. Number one is, try to take always the positive in life and also the positive view. There is a tendency to always, share what goes wrong in the world, but we also have
It
so
sounds
many
more
things.
credible.
Yeah, exactly. No, and then it attracts a lot of attention, right? Media, etc. They're also, part of the blame there. But I think no one talks about all the great things, and this could be an example, right? This specific podcast, it's great that you take the time to share amazing stories and opportunities, and people are going to be inspired and do more. I think the more you hear good things, they're going to be motivated to do more. The second really is collaboration. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there is a lot of separation and conflicts and extremism in so many ways. And I think we need to find a way. The reason, being human really is being social and connected to other people. And I strongly believe that, I do it in my business where we don't try to reinvent the wheel. We focus on what we're good at, and for whatever else, we partner with a company or a organization that can do that better than us. I'm not going to try to, create a university or whatever else, because there are already plenty of good ones. And similarly, in our personal life, right, instead of, always looking for the difference between us and someone else, why don't we try to find a common ground that is going to help us working together, in particular in a moment where there is a lot of need to really do this at scale and collectively to improve um, our economy, our social life, our humanity. I think we see a lot of both in the United States, whenever there is a presidential election, or in Europe, some nationalistic issues. So I think there is a real opportunity to forgive and forget about the differences and find ways to work together.
Luca, thank you so much for sharing those stories and your hopes. May I wish you a lot of great impact and success. God bless you and your family and your work. And thank you for the work you do and spreading that positive impact. And take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. It's a pleasure. Keep working as well. You are the best.
Thank you.